Perth's own 6PR, where you don't miss a thing.
Now, as most of you know, I'm very active in social media. I love my Twitter and I love my Facebook. There's been a conversation happening on Facebook about lotto. As you know, there's recently been a big jackpot. There's another jackpot coming along as well that are potentially going to give people a heck of a lot of money. If only one person wins, certainly the more recent one, they stood to win something like $75 million. Now, that's an extraordinary amount of money. You've got to ask the question, would $5 million be just as extraordinary and just as enough? You can imagine if we took these lotto winnings and said, right, instead of $75 million distributed by whoever manages to get the right numbers, we'll cap it at $5 million per person that's managed to get those right numbers, and the rest of the money could then be distributed either to the other divisions or perhaps even to charity. Now, I'm well aware that we already distribute some of the lottery's money to charities, but let's find out from someone who knows a little bit about wealth what $5 million can actually do for us. Joining us now, Troy MacMillan, who's the Managing Director at Wealth Designers. G'day, Troy.
Hi, Jason.
Mate, is $5 million enough?
Oh, look, mate, I think $5 million is plenty. You've got to think about, if someone actually won the $70 million jackpot, if they invested that in cash, and say that cash was earning, earning now 5%, they'd be getting around about $300,000 a month. Passive income. $300,000 a month. I'd challenge even the best spenders to be able to spend that much money per month.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be a few out there who would.
But conversely, you know, we have a look at this recent win. So I think we had 3 winners of the $75 million, so they've got something like $25 million each. Yeah. But the second division winners, now, they've only managed to pick up something like $40,000 each.
You wouldn't be happy, would you?
Well, no, because, I mean, what is it with second division? I think you're pretty much one number away from having all of them. I mean, you're going to be enormously frustrated to think that you were one number away from $25 million. Troy, you're more of a numbers man than me. How would it work if we said, all right, there's going to be a cap. From now on, it's $5 million capped each person that manages to win in that first division. The remainder then gets distributed throughout the other divisions. Would that then increase, like you can imagine this most recent draw, instead of $75 million split 3 ways, we're now talking about what was $75 million, we're taking 15 off for the winners and putting the remainder of it into the other divisions. How much would that pump the other divisions up by?
Oh, it would make an enormous difference. I mean, $5 million, a win of $5 million again, I mean, it's going to give you a passive income stream that most people, would be very, very happy with. And then you've got, say, $1 million to spread amongst another 55 people perhaps, and $1 million would go a long way to paying off mortgages, realising a lot of goals and dreams for people. Of course, it's always individual, Jason. You've got to come down to the first question. The first question we always ask is, what's important to the client? What's important about money to them? And of course, you're going to get a lot of different answers when it comes down to what's important about money. I mean,
$40,000 is a nice amount of money to get. It would be beautiful if that just lobbed into your bank account. But at the same time, it's not necessarily life-changing.
It's not life-changing. It will give you a nice holiday over to Europe, over to America with the kids. It'll pay off your car. It'll do some of the things that you want to do. But then at the end of it, you're not going to have anything left over. What it's not going to give you, it's not going to give you a passive income stream.
Wouldn't it be lovely with Lotto if instead of saying, all right, well, we've got 3 guaranteed millionaires out of this because they're going to get $25 million each. Imagine if we could turn around and say, we've suddenly given $5 million or, even more than $1 million to 30, 40 people. Can you imagine what difference that makes, not just to them, but to their family and friends as well?
It would make a massive difference. I mean, and there are so many people in the community sharing it. You'd actually probably have a good chance of meeting someone else who'd won the $1 million as well. Whereas the chance of meeting someone now who's won Division 1, it's very...
I just wonder as well if this wouldn't actually be a good thing for charities, because people really, when you get down to it, most people are quite charitable. If they've got a lot of money suddenly, they're quite likely to give that to their charities of choice. So we may actually see a lot more distribution of this wealth amongst people if people have an opportunity to have this unexpected windfall.
Yeah, I think people will be more inclined to give some away, and some people who receive some money may not need the money, so they'd be quite inclined to maybe give some of it away as well.
All right, well, Troy, let's pretend for a moment then that I've just won Lotto. I've been hit with this cap of $5 million. What do I do now to try and ensure, as best I can, that the rest of my life and perhaps even for my children is going to be quite comfortable?
Well, JP, first of all, you've got to really have a good understanding of what you want to do with the money. And that's where you've got to have the conversation around, again, what are your goals? What are your desires? What are your wants? What are your ambitions in life? Work those out. And once you work those out, then you've got to have a plan in place. Because if you don't have a plan, and what do we always read in the paper? We always read that people win these prizes and then they meet them 5 years later and they've got nothing left.
Nothing.
So that's the thing you want to avoid. And I think people are trying to be, certainly with all the avenues out there, social media, so people realise that there's advice that they can receive to ensure that doesn't all fritter away. So you get a plan in place, and then you look at, okay, what do we do first? So the first thing may be, of course, pay off any mortgages, any car debts, any credit card debts. Get rid of all that bad debt that's hanging around in your life. Get rid of that. And then we need to have a strategy of where we're going to put the money. And really, again, depending on your age and depending where you're at in life, you want to invest the money where, one, you're going to pay the smallest amount of tax, but two, it's going to give you this passive income stream. A lot of people, they focus on these big earnings. They straight away they think, oh, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to do this, and they think about all those things. But what they don't think about is what that money could actually do for them on a passive income stream.
So what we're talking about here is investing it rather than just putting it in a bank and getting a really low interest. We look for other forms of investment that may be a little bit more risky, but which offer a much higher rate of return.
Exactly right. That's the old thing. It's not how much you earn, it's what you do with your money. So you want to invest it. And look, cash rates are coming down, so soon wouldn't be surprised if cash rates come down another 0.5% by June. Then all of a sudden people's bank deposits are not going to be giving the return that they were getting, a year or so ago. So therefore, what do? So they've got to look at other ways to try and get a good return above inflation. And we always recommend look at diversified portfolio amongst shares, property, cash and bonds. And that's always going to change, and each person's tolerance to risk is always going to change. And where they put the money, whether it's inside super or outside super, there's all these different avenues to go down. But the main thing we want to achieve is an income stream where, at the end of the day, you won $5 million, you've got the choice to know whether you're going to work or not. And you may still work, but then you've got the choice that you may not. And the only way you're going to have that, the choice is by having a passive income stream from this $5 million investment.
Is it possible for our listeners this evening who haven't necessarily had a huge windfall to still get into this passive return type market thing? I mean, I struggle with the terminology because I'm not particularly money savvy, but if I wanted to, are there some investments that I can make even without having a huge amount of money behind me?
There is. I mean, at the end of the day, we should be paying our investments first. So we all earn an income, and of course we've got expenses and lifestyle to meet, but we've got to have strategies in place where we've got some money going away towards a long-term investment. And as long as that goes, you pay that first. And look, we quite often mortgages can be a savings plan. At least people are committed to paying the mortgage off. Of course, you want to pay that first, but you may have some other savings plans that you're just chipping away every week, every month, going towards a longer-term vision of where you want to go. And if you keep doing that, of course, in the short, medium, and long term, you're going to have build up enough of a nest egg to have a passive income stream. And look, people say, do we invest in property? Do we invest in shares? It's entirely up to you. We of course want to educate all people out there the benefits of property and shares, but some people just invest in cash, and they've done very well in the last couple of years. But like I said, cash is coming down, so we've got to look at alternatives to cash.
All right, so here in Perth at least, I know we've got some problems with our rental market at the moment, so do you think maybe property at the moment would be an interesting place to look? People
always say you make your money when you buy a property, and look, of course there are a lot of bargains out there because they say it's a buyer's market at the moment, but we wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, if property still comes under pressure from what's happening. And we feel that property is going to be pretty tough too over the next few years. So if you've got property, doesn't mean you need to sell it, but do you acquire more property? That's the question that we'd be asking you. It's probably could be still a bit risky, Jason, to be looking at too much property at this stage.
Okay. Okay, I'll put a cross next to that one. Done. Alrighty. When it comes to the share market at the moment, everybody keeps talking about another global financial crisis, and certainly Europe is suffering right now. Are we concerned about putting our market into the money into the share market?
Look, it sounds like it's just all bad news, doesn't it? Property, but shares. Look, there's a lot of instability in Europe, and only 48 hours ago we saw more flashed across the news. What I'd say to people is try not to read the papers, try not to listen to the news, because obviously they're trying to promote all the bad news. The bad news over in Europe is there, and we all know about it. There's a lot of uncertainty over in Europe, and that is affecting markets over there. We would say that we're getting close to the bottom. Like we feel like we're almost at the very bottom of the market. And then by later in this year, we're going to see some uplift. Probably by September this year, we're going to start seeing some uplift in the shares. It doesn't mean you want to rush out and buy shares at the moment. It's still going to be that up and down volatility that you hear about. We may be coming into some better times with shares later in the year. But
So it's a good time to go out and win $5 million in the lotto.
Look, it's a good time. Where would you do with it? Well, look, like I said, it's really up to the individual, but the four main asset classes that people want to consider, and the four main asset classes are cash, which we all know about, there's bonds, and there's government bonds, and there's corporate type bonds, there's property, and you've got residential and commercial property, and then there's shares. And amongst the shares, there's so many different types of sectors and individual stocks you need to look at. But of course, you just need to get advice on whatever you're going to do.
If you are in the market to have someone who can help you out with investing your money a little bit more wisely than maybe you're doing at the moment, why not give Troy MacMillan a call? He's the Managing Director at Wealth Designers. Troy, what's your website?
It's www.wealthdesigners.com.au.
Beautiful. Troy, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Jason.
Good on you, mate. Troy MacMillan there, Managing Director of the Wealth Designers. Interested to put the question out to you, do you reckon lotto winnings should be capped at $5 million? Or is it a silly idea? Give us a call, 922 11882. We'd love to know your opinion this evening. This is Nightline on 882 6PR.